Hi, everyone. Val Evans here, and I've got my good friend and fellow forensic astrologer, Grace Wilson, with me. Hi, Grace.
Hi, everyone.
And we are discussing the Evansdale case again. It's our part two because there's just so much to talk about after that first session we had with Psychic Todd Segal, which I thought was so interesting. And it's always interesting to combine astrologers and psychics. And as a matter of fact, I'm going to shout out my friend John Baisley because um, he is at the Omega Institute right now, and that is a psychic workshop. It's a school, it's an institute. And so they're combining over the weekend astrology and psychic detective clues to, come to conclusions on a couple of cases they're working on. So, anyway, as far as psychics are concerned and bringing them into an investigation, I've seen just stuff on Facebook in the past. Like, I haven't been that impressed with psychics. What about you, Grace? Like when you're talking about psychic investigators.
Well, I have found that if the psychic comes more organically,
Hmm.
you know, like in a lot of the books that we've been reading, and in some of the shows where, somebody just happens to know someone, or the psychic brings information that turns out to mean something. But
Hmm.
I think there's a lot of people online that like to call themselves psychics, and they just they haven't taken the time to develop the craft, if you will.
Well, and I also think that there are good psychics, but they're good from a personal standpoint. But when it comes to trying to get visions for actual investigations, they maybe they're not practiced enough. But I'll tell you, Todd is amazing, and John is as well, who I've spoken to quite a few times. But Todd gave some really incredible clues, and especially with Evansdale, and we're working on another case, the What Happened to Sean case, which you may have heard of,
Mhm.
with Ramona Rivas, the mother of Sean. But when it comes to Evansdale, it is it's pretty amazing about what he came up with the last time we talked to him. And one was he kept saying they're down by the river, meaning the perpetrators. And I was watching it was a crime podcast, and they had Drew Collins come in, and which is the father of Elizabeth Collins, the younger victim. And it just breaks your heart to listen to him. And it's it just really gives a lot of meaning when you hear from the parent, and 10 years later he's doing the rounds. He's really trying to get the word out because he knows that it's going to take somebody to say something. So I went back to the map, and he was talking about Arbutus Avenue. He said that's where he believes that the girls were trapped, and the person maybe opened up their car and waited for them to come by, which is a little bit what or how Todd had described it. And Drew Collins thought that they might have been down by the river waiting for them. So I thought that was very interesting that Todd saw that. And, so the river has a lot to do with it. Did you hear about Michael? Was it starts with a K? But anyway, that one,
Clunder.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And he
Hmm.
committed suicide. And
Yeah.
so I thought it was really weird because he was implicated to some extent, and he was actually living he was a sexual predator. He had a record, just like Todd said that this guy already had a record. He was living with his girlfriend right by this area. So amazing that Todd was able to see, and the chart also showed that there's a female involved. So it seemed like this guy might be a good possibility or POI, but he committed suicide. So, what are you going to do? But he was involved with crimes with his friend, and his girlfriend, I think, knew about it. So a little bit eerie. I think it fits the description of, to some extent, to this guy. So anyway, what we'll do next is, I think we should start out with, this is the 1211. Now, we haven't looked at this one so much. We looked at the 911 call, but this is the timestamp for when the girls were seen on CCTV. It was a very grainy video, and I would say it's within moments of the perpetrator either seeing them or coming into contact with them. And you see Libra there at 5 degrees, and Mars at 5 degrees, which can mean a man and can mean a car. In Libra, maybe a nice looking car, an attractive car, or even, somebody who is an attractive man. It can also mean a relationship too, but I'm not sure how that would apply here. The 5 degrees is a Leo degree, so it could mean someone with blonde hair. But they were right next to a park, and 5 degrees, which is the Leo degree, and the way you determine the degrees is, the first degree is Aries, second is Taurus, third is Gemini, and you go all the way to Pisces to 12 degrees. Then Aries, you pick up again at 13 degrees, go all the way around again to 24 degrees, which is Pisces. Then 25 is Aries again, and then you just go to Leo, and then you repeat it. And that's how we arrive to those degrees. So 5 degrees would be the Leo degree, and might give a description of the perpetrator in at Mars in Libra, and then opposing Uranus. So that might mean maybe someone who might have a foreign name, because Uranus is foreign. And in Aries especially with Aries and then Mars, sometimes that can mean like a redneck. So I don't know if that makes any sense, but with Saturn there in the first house, it's kind of coloring that first house. Saturn means to stop or to delay, to hold, and to hold in a car. And I think could also describe maybe the dark skin, which Todd was talking about with the perpetrator. So when you see this, and I indicated with the green arrow what represents the girls. So they're Libra, and one of the girls' names is Lyric. So that's a name of music, and Libra represents music. You can see a lot from this just axis, the first and the seventh axis. Do you see anything that pops out to you?
Well, I mean, not from just that little bit. I mean, you've pretty much covered it.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, with the Saturn there, it looks as if Saturn you see over and over that means to wait, almost like, and you could almost back that up a little bit so that, I don't know. No, I guess you couldn't, because it's not going to be conjunct for days, but you can still, in that first house, it shows that men waited.
mhm.
And Todd said that Lyric was probably the person they were looking at. Maybe she was the target. Elizabeth was the younger one. So, okay, so we'll get to the next slide. What do you want to cover? Do you want to look at the full chart, maybe the solar chart next, or what do you have in mind?
Well, I just wanted to kind of let's go over Elizabeth's,
Okay.
just her natal chart real quick.
Okay, so this is the event. This is her solar chart. Is that okay?
Did
That's
I
the
not
only
send
one
you the natal? I thought I did.
I only got the solar and I got the event chart. But while you're talking, I can look for it.
Okay, because I didn't I threw the solar chart up there so we could look at it, but I did
Okay.
my research on the on her natal chart.
Okay. Well, let's see. Let me see what I can do here. Do you want to talk on one of these charts and I'll pull up the other one?
Um,
Well, here's the event chart for 248. And
okay.
at that point, Mars is in the 11th house.
Okay, here we go. All right, now I can talk to you about it. All
Okay.
right, so you said that Drew thought that they were
Cornered.
cornered on what street? What's the name of the street?
Arbutus.
Arbutus. And
Yeah.
so there wasn't an AB. Whoa, you lost me.
Sorry, right there. Arbutus.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, wait, yeah, I need to go back to the chart.
Okay.
Okay. One more. Oh, now that one right there?
That's the event chart.
Before that? No, that's
chart.
hers. Is it?
Oh, that's hers.
Oh, yeah,
okay.
It is. Solar return. You're right. Okay, go forward.
Okay.
Sorry, everyone.
That's okay.
Okay, so there wasn't an ARBU, but there was an ARBE, and it's at 2 degrees.
Okay.
And then you can see that it is trine Neptune, which is the seat, right there in the 4th house. So there was some kind of deceit, and we can't see it here, but the asteroid Hopi, HOPI, which means to ambush, is directly conjunct Saturn in this chart. Okay. So I think the older man was waiting.
Okay.
And the younger man ambushed them and took them to the older man, who was probably by the river. Now, 2 things here. There was. I read Unsolved on the internet, and then I watched another Evansdale podcast. And they were talking about this woman named Teresa who committed suicide with her son by driving onto some railroad tracks. And one of the things that she told her therapist was that she had a 6-page letter from the 2 men who committed this crime. And I guess they did, after her suicide, they did get a search warrant for her house, and they do have the letter, but they didn't find any connections, or they didn't put any stock in it. But boy, if you look here, you can see Teresa in the 5th house, right, of drugs and addictions and all that kind of thing at 22 degrees. And it's exactly trine Ascalaphus, which is witness.
It's exact. Wow.
So that tells me a lot right there, don't you think?
And so what is the follow-up to that? That they didn't believe her, or?
They didn't give any a whole lot of detail. They just said that they didn't find anything in it that helped.
That's interesting. I found her natal chart. Do you want me to bring that up?
Sure. Yes, please.
Okay, sorry. All right, let me just.
And you wait.
Yeah.
One minute. Okay, so you see how in the 8th house Elizabeth is conjunct Jupiter, which is conjunct Ceres, right? That's all here, right on the 8th house cusp. And it's opposite the true node, which is like destiny. And I think I think there might be a few red herrings, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But just remember, these three, because at the 5th degree, so that's the Leo degree, right, which is on the midheaven, and it's Jupiter and Ceres, right? So we've got big mother energy.
Okay.
Okay, let's go to her that year's.
Yep. All right, so this is her natal chart.
Right.
That I'm going to pull. Let's see here. Hang on 1 second. It's not letting me do it. Ugh. Okay. It's because I have to, it's not letting me pull up a PNG file. Okay. Hang on 1 second. I could share my screen, which is possible. Maybe I should do that. Share screen.
Oh, and also on the DC of the event chart of the Fort 911 chart, look, that's at Hamal. Hamal at 6 Taurus. That's a cruel, premeditated crime.
Okay. Yeah, it does seem like it was planned.
Mm-hmm. It was.
Right. Share screen. Okay, I think this is it. Okay.
Yeah, yes, that's her.
All right. Okay.
Okay, so I used a sunrise chart. I just go by intuition. Sometimes I say, "Oh, I'm going to use a new chart." Sometimes I say, "No, So I just take it on intuition, and by gosh, look at the IC there. She's got well, I didn't write this one down, but it's the asteroid Crid Sataporn, which if you take the R out, it says Kid Sataporn. And it's right there on the IC, and then it's conjunct Asclepius, which is witness. So I think that there were pictures taken of these babies. And another indication of that, if you look up in her 10th house, you'll see
Photographica
with the North Node with the name Jeff. Now, Jeff is another, what do I want to say?
POI?
That they haven't completely ruled out yet.
Whoa.
If I got that wrong, let me know. But as far as I remember, and I just looked at this last night, but my memory is about this long, that he hasn't been ruled out. So I think, in my personal opinion, they need to go back to Teresa. They can't, she's passed, but they need to go back through her life, because I'm wondering if there's not some kind of, because you can see Teresa there is now in the 11th house of this chart. So I'm wondering if she was friends with this Jeff, or if they've got another man that Jeff might know. That's the link, the missing link.
And just for people who are joining us, this is Elizabeth Collins' natal chart. And Elizabeth Collins was the younger of the two cousins. And actually, Drew Collins, who I was just talking about, he has been on YouTube and really trying to drum up some kind of interest in this case, or more interest 10 years later. But so this is the natal chart, and you pulled these, and you got Jeff because of just coverage of the case, and because Jeff and Teresa are in the news. And amazing that in Elizabeth's chart, you have Black Moon Lilith at 18 degrees, which is pretty bad. And it sits right next to Photographica, North Node, and Jeff. Like that's a sinister stellium there. Why do you think it's in the 10th?
Public. It's all public. This all happened out in the open.
Okay.
They were snatched right off the street. There were photos of them driving, cycling down the street. So, yeah.
And we've seen time and time again when these kids are taken, or when something really bad happens in a crime, we're going to see 26, we're going to see Algol. And there's so much energy. This Jeff person is conjunct Algol. So that means the devil.
Hmm.
So Algol does. We don't know. I don't know much about Jeff, and I think that we need to look into that. Now, Todd had said that there are witnesses that have yet to come forward, which I believe. And when you're looking at this chart, and I apologize if you were on a whole list of notes, but quickly, as far as the witnesses are concerned, yeah.
Well, I want to talk about Saturn real quick.
Okay, go ahead.
Because conjunct Saturn is car, right?
Okay.
So they possibly died in the car.
Okay.
They were snatched, taken somewhere, killed in the car, then left.
Now, Saturn in the 12th, though, can also show like incarceration. But that's not her ruling planet. Her ruling planet would be Sun. So, and then Elizabeth is in the 12th. So she goes missing. But with Saturn, you're talking about an asteroid, or you're just talking about, okay.
Yes, it's an asteroid called Phaethon.
Okay.
I put that on our list.
Yes.
Which is car, and Saturn is the body. So
okay, and I will have the list.
Their bodies were transported in a car, I believe.
And I will have a list of the asteroids that we use that you had provided to me in the description. It's interesting that they were seen on camera right by an auction house, and I don't know what type of auction house it is. It would be interesting if it had to do with automobiles, because we've been seeing a lot of lots and lots of cars. And I know I think it was Laura, one of our viewers, said, well, maybe there was like a junkyard or some kind of, I don't know, something around, but that might be a possibility. So anyway.
looking at like the Arabic parts in her, not this chart, but in her natal chart.
Let me look at this.
And I'm just going to talk generalities right now. But
okay, which one do you want me to put up?
It's her natal chart, but we don't need to look at it. I just want to talk about generalities. So I'm seeing a lot of themes of broken promises, broken oaths, both in the event chart and in her natal chart. So there seems to be this enmity. Retribution was big. So this was payback. It was definitely some kind of payback for something. Broken promises doesn't necessarily mean that it was targeted at the family, but this person feels that the family is responsible. Whether maybe it's Lyric's family and Elizabeth just happened to be there, because I haven't looked that closely at Lyric's chart yet. So this all may be, yes, Lana, these are the murders that resembled Delphi.
Yes. Hi, Lana.
And again, when I was looking at Delphi over these, I see some connections there, that there might be some of the people, I'm not saying the perp, but I'm saying that some of the people that this perp might have known were possibly in the sex ring, or whatever you want to call it, that Kagan and Tony had. Okay. Because this is all really close together in a region. They're very close.
And if that were the case, it seems as if it might have been somebody who knew. Maybe it was Lyric's father who was incarcerated. So that's the only thing I can think of.
It could be that. I mean, it could be anything. It could be just you know how people are. I mean, it could have just been she cut in front of me, and
Yeah, yeah. But
yeah.
it just seems difficult to visualize, because how did they know that these kids were going to be riding their bikes? Like
Well,
that's
because
pretty
they've been doing that. They've
okay.
been doing it all summer. This was
Okay.
July, and they've been staying at their grandma's, and they've been doing it June, probably May, end of May, June.
Uh-huh.
They said it wasn't unusual for them to go riding around on their bikes. So somebody was watching them.
Somebody was watching.
Somebody
Amazing.
was watching, and they just kept watching until they caught them at a time and nobody was around, you know?
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, Probably called somebody real quick and said, I think this is it.
Uh, well, it looks a mess. Did you want to add anything else as far as the asteroids, or any other thoughts?
No, just, that I just, like I said, it was planned. It was definitely planned to kill them. Um, and there very possibly might be photographs involved
Mhm.
or film.
Okay. Well, this Teresa, like I would, after what you said and seeing her in these charts, this is, and at 22 degrees too in this chart,
Hmm.
is eye opening. She is sextiling the moon, and we're using the personal name asteroid for those of you who want to pull personal name asteroid. You would go to astro.com, and we can actually do a little demo when we get a chance on how to
Yeah,
do it. But it's not really intuitive. You have to figure it out. But when you when you put in the person's name, then it should pop up on the you have to actually look through the list of names. And sometimes the
right,
names, it's not always going to be the exact name. You're not going
right.
to always see, like, for instance, you're not going to see Valerie, you might see Valeria, but you'll still pull that name. And
Hmm.
then you might have more than one name.
Hmm.
So, like, you might have Val and Valeria, and then you'd pull those names, and then you'd see where they are. What happens when you're looking, Grace, and you see like 10 of
Okay.
the possibilities? What do you do?
Let's take me for example. So there's two, I think, for me, and one is Grace Kelly, and the other one is Grace HZU. And so I was all excited, and I started putting Grace Kelly in my charts, and it was like, no, I wasn't really seeing a whole lot of hits, you know. And
Uh-huh.
I put the other one in, and she's like a scientist, I think, and I got hits everywhere. So, but
Okay.
how I try is um, first names are usually better than last names, but if you have several people in your case that have the same first name, then you might want to look for a last name. But let's just take the name Jeff, for example. So I'm going to go to the J's,
Mhm.
and then I'm going to go to JE, and then I'm going to go to JEF, and I'm just going to keep going down until I run out of matches. So
Mhm.
this guy, Jeff Altinger or Altmeyer, I can't remember, but um, I got to Jeff G, and I had tried a couple of other ones. I got to Jeff G, and get this, this is hilarious. It's Jeff Grossman. Is this
Wow.
asteroid right here? That is at
That would
0.
apply. That would apply.
Doesn't it? And so that's what I went with. So sometimes you have to play with them a little. Sometimes you're really lucky and you just find one, but um, you just
Hmm.
so let's say his name is Don and his last name is Whalen. Okay, so you're gonna look for a Don W, but let's say there's not a Whalen or anything that even sounds like Whalen, then you would
Mhm.
just pick Don W. Well, what if
Okay.
there's not a W? Well, then you would pick, whatever was
I got it.
closest to the W.
Weird how Mars means man, and in the event chart, Jeff is next to Mars. So
Hmm.
Jeff Grossman. I don't know. 5 degrees is also the Leo degree. And with Leo, you can see a name like Sun, S-O-N,
Hmm.
like Carson or one of those types of names. And Trump is actually an exception, but that's definitely a Leo name. Now, with the most interesting part of this chart, aside from what you pulled with Teresa, which, can I just say, the sextile to the moon, sextile to sun, and then the trine between the sun and Teresa, that to me shows that she might become famous from being that whistleblower. Isn't that what the asteroid in the ninth house is? The whistleblower asteroid.
Hmm. Asclepius. Hmm.
Yeah, and which is why you pulled that. So that looks like famous whistleblower to me. So I think that's a possibility that she could break. And
Hopefully. Just too sad
and
she won't be alive to enjoy it.
yeah, so she's dead.
Yes, she committed suicide.
Okay, so then that won't work. All right, but interesting how Uranus is next to Teresa. So that's suicide. So
Hmm.
it really does seem to line up there. Let's
Yeah,
see.
by a train, which is electricity.
What do you mean?
Aren't trains run by electricity?
Yeah, but how did she commit suicide?
She drove onto the train tracks with her
Oh,
son.
yes. Oh my God. I didn't follow that. Okay.
Mhm.
Good Lord. But we've got Mercury at the top, which we talked about at the last show. And
Mhm.
Mercury is a witness. 12 degrees could be someone who's in jail, like a witness in jail, maybe, or
Mhm.
someone who does drugs that knew what happened with that sextile to Eliza. So,
Could
okay.
be.
All right. So let's see. What else do we have here? We have her solar return. Weird how Jeff is in the first house. Now, he didn't kill himself, did he?
No, he's the one that's still alive.
But there was another guy, that Michael Clundon or whatever his name was. He committed suicide, but the
I think so,
police
yeah.
have, yeah, he recently was cleared by the police of this crime. So you just got to, I guess, trust that they know what they're talking about. This was a crime where the police really, at least according to Elizabeth Collins' father, Drew, did an amazing job. They were right on it, the FBI, several agencies. They went knocking on doors around that park immediately. Like they were, you only wish that happened with the case with Sean Doherty, where the police just, they didn't even bother looking until, I don't know, weeks or months later, and
Mhm.
didn't talk to anybody, none of the neighbors. So in this case, they were lucky in the sense, the parents, that they had support from the police. But it looks
So
like
look,
they were long gone. Yeah.
yeah. So we have Asclepius, the whistleblower, on the cusp of the 10th and 11th house, right? And it's opposite, exactly opposite the photographica.
Ah,
So I
okay.
think there could possibly be some kind of photographic evidence.
But with that opposition, wouldn't you think that it's never going to see the light of day, or that there's going to be some kind of a delay or a block?
Well, there already has been a
Yeah.
delay.
Yeah. Yeah. And the Pluto and the moon is super famous, like, which they have become. But you can also see other things that are going to be famous, whatever is touching that moon and Pluto. So, we can look at a bunch of points there. Teresa,
Yeah.
obviously. The sixth house and Neptune is interesting. Um, I think, wasn't there, that can be glass, it can be water, obviously. Let me think, like a famous lake. Um, see here. And it squares Uranus. There's that really nasty T-square with Pluto, Moon, Mars at 15, and Uranus. It just keeps showing like these suicide signatures. So I think that we might continue to see that, like what we've already seen too from this case. And I don't know if they're even related. Anyway, I think the point is when we're talking about this is that I think the only way this case is going to get solved is to just continue to plead for the witnesses to come forward, because it's pretty, I would say that there's a lot of witness energy here.
Yes. There's more than one person that knows about this, obviously.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so when you're looking, let's look at the 1211 real quick. And this is just a simple chart on AstroSeek for 1211, and it's July 13th, 2012. And we have the fifth house would be the park. And there is a lake with a park, so that's the fifth house. And then you've got that T-square, which is the south node at 9 degrees, what is left behind in Gemini, which is two things are left behind, or the bikes by the park. But that T-square to me, it's almost like they had trouble putting it in. There was like some kind of trouble that they had with laying the bikes down. Maybe in just the chaos or something, that maybe they were trying to take the bikes and they couldn't. So that, I don't know. That's what I see when I see that. With the 10th house, that's what can be seen out in the open. So you can see at 1211, and the sun would be the co-ruler. We've got Mars and the sun, which are the perpetrators.
Mm-hmm.
We think they're two or more. You know, Elizabeth Collins' father thinks that there might actually be a group of them, but he thinks he's seen some statistics where he said that it's pretty impossible for one person to kidnap two little girls. So with the sun in Cancer, square Saturn, I don't know what to think about that. You know, when you see that square, it's almost like they were limited in doing something. But they had access to, there's the moon there, which would be the co-ruler of the victim. So it's like, I don't know, that there was, like we said last week, there was an ease there in getting the victims. And then with part of fortune, it shows in that same house of the co-ruler of the perpetrator that he was successful.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have that Uranus there. That to me shows a crossing of some sort. It's almost like it could be a railroad crossing. It could be a red, something that's crossing. And it's almost like two crossings, because that trines Mercury, which is 2, and it's in Leo. So that's interesting to see there. I think the strongest, well, there are two really strong planets here, Mars on the ascendant and then Pluto in the 4th. And Pluto at 7 degrees, or with retrograde, that would make it 8 degrees. So that's a killer in the home, and it's squaring Uranus. So it's this huge, it's almost like someplace where there was an explosion or something. I wonder if that's a clue about where they were taken. Might have been some kind of a landmark. Okay, so so you already talked about the 10th, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I thought we were going to talk about what they could possibly look like.
Oh yes. Yep.
Okay.
Do you want to start?
No.
I thought that's why you mentioned it. Okay. What they could possibly look like is what I said in the beginning, which is Mars in Libra. You know, that's a man, blonde hair, might be good looking, might be a drug addict, but has good looking meaning, attractive features, symmetrical features, and Mars with Saturn in the first house might be older, might be darker skin. So I think I went over pretty much what I thought, which was that, and also Mars trining Gemini, which means many different men.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
So
think
I found.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was going to say the 1211 and the 248 have the same signature
Yes.
from what I saw.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So I found two markers. One was that he could possibly be limp or lame, walk with a limp, or maybe missing part of, like the lower part of his leg.
Okay.
And then the other thing was the fixed star Fomalhaut, which is the 2 degrees Pisces. It's real prominent in these charts. And that shows a person who's malevolent, who's unstable, has wasted talents, lives in an evil environment, loses their friends, is addicted to drugs and alcohol, and could possibly become fatally injured through electricity, explosion, or accident.
Wow. Unless it's in good aspect, and then there's a lot of positive things, right?
Right.
I'm asking that for personal reasons.
Oh, sure, but I don't see. There's two squares.
Yeah. So
it's just that's not a lot of good in there.
It's not good when Fomalhaut is squared. Yeah, it shows drugs. It shows almost that drugs were left behind, and also something that I posted on last week was Todd had seen, once we got off the show, he said, I see somebody with a syringe on their arm, like a tattoo. And there is Chiron, which represents a tattoo. And in Pisces, it's drugs. So it's a drug tattoo. So that's pretty weird. Let's take a look at some of the comments. Robin is saying maybe witnesses don't know they are witnesses because the killer looks normal, not a monster. That's possible. It's probably someone in front of their faces that nobody would suspect, or it's unlikely according to the chart, maybe. Todd also thought, too, that maybe the person has a record and they don't want to interface with the police. So
I think he's still in the community. I think he just is not somebody that's going to draw attention to himself.
Yeah. And Robin, you're saying, I can't believe Delphi was the killer's first murder. I agree. How strong do you feel that these killers are related or maybe the same? Like, it's such a big topic and the public wants to know, but I'm not convinced.
I'm not convinced that they know each other.
Okay.
But I think that they travel in the same kind of circles, and I think that the killer in Delphi, or the killers, heard about what was accomplished at Evansdale and said, well, we can do better than that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
Because like we said, there was something that was at the end was too fast, or they didn't accomplish something. But I think Delphi, they accomplished everything they set out to. So I think that, like I said, there may be somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody in the Delphi case, but it's not going to be a matter of the Delphi murderer's friend was the killer in Evansdale.
Robin says, were the girls on social media? I don't know. I don't think so. Drew Collins, Elizabeth's dad, was saying that they absolutely loved each other. They were very close cousins, and if one of them was trapped, the other one would have stayed. So,
just like Libby and Abby.
Mhm. Lana says that's what my gut feels, community members, but not likely to be looked at. Yeah, even though Sioux City came up last week with Todd. So
Mm-hmm.
that was interesting. But I don't know. I don't know. So the other thing that I think confirms a network is Uranus is a network. In Aries can be a business network. Seventh house is business. And then trine Mercury is like a children's network, or Mercury can all in 11th house is 11th house is the network house.
Mm-hmm.
So those are confirmations to me. And then with the sextiles to the ninth house, I think that it might be possible that this is going to come out in the news of this network at some point. I
Mm-hmm.
don't know. I hope so. I hope so.
I do too.
All right. Well, that's all I have. Grace, do you have anything else you want to add?
No,
All right.
not at
Well,
this point. But I did want to say
mhm.
that we were talking about doing another new show
Yes.
on possibly the Stockton serial
Serial
killer.
killer. Yes.
And just so happens that I was born in Sacramento, but my family was from Stockton, and my little sister, who I'm going to visit tomorrow, was pretty much raised in Stockton. I was raised in a home, but she was raised in Stockton.
Okay.
So I thought it would just be really fun to go over
Mhm.
those charts with her and go over the different murders and maybe get some background information
Yeah, I think we
on,
should.
yeah, because I mean, she lived there just recently. She just moved up here, I think, a little less than a year ago to Oregon.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
we could
Why
it
not?
could be
Why not?
very interesting if we had her on.
Absolutely. Bring her on. And
Okay.
because I really want to analyze this serial killer. And I also promised Melanie, I believe, she wanted to know about the mapping, and she also wanted to know about the miles. Is it possible to see the miles from where the
Uh
girls left to where they were found? Now,
oh,
I
and on
believe,
this one
yeah. Now,
on
well, in
Evansdale. Oh yeah.
general, she asked in general, but now here, this is the Evansdale murders, and they were found between 20 and 30 minutes. Drew, the father, says it was 20 minutes. MapQuest says 29, but he knows better. He says they were found in Seven Bridges Park,
Mm-hmm.
and it's very heavily wooded. And he said it was so about 20 minutes. And so a lot of times astrologers will say, look at the ascendant, because that might show you how many miles, like 6 degrees, in other words. But it's not working for these charts because one chart's 5 degrees, the other one's 6. And we're talking 20 miles. So what do
Okay.
you think?
No, 20 miles. Okay, so here's what. So I went back to an old favorite. I don't know if you guys can read that.
Oh, let me see.
Maybe like that.
Yeah, I see it. Uh-huh.
Okay, yeah, it's Simplified Horror Astrology by Ivy M. Goldstein Jacobson, and it was written
Yes,
in
Ivy.
1966.
All right.
And so she's got a fairly simple um, formula.
Mhm.
And so the first thing she says is she says to determine the approximate distance from a person or an animal, you take the planet ruling the house of the person. Okay, so
Okay.
here's the 248, the 911 call, right?
Yep.
So what planet or what house, let me say that again. Take the planet ruling the house of the person. So
So
if
the 11th,
we,
if we look at Mars, that's the chart ruler. Mars is in the 11th.
but the chart ruler does not represent the girls. Okay,
Well,
if you think of this as a horary chart,
okay.
then this is who's asking the question about, right?
Right.
So we've got Taurus on, so that would be Venus. Okay, so then the next step is you have to find out what the declination is, whether it's 0 declination or if it's north or south.
Mm-hmm.
So I have it here. Oh, wrong one. I'm sorry, guys.
Yeah, it's amazing. For so long, people have been saying just look at the ascendant, but it doesn't work.
Okay. Okay. So Venus
Mm-hmm.
is so they're at north, and Venus is in, where is she?
Gemini.
Okay, she's in the 8th, so succeedant. So it says that if, oh, wait a minute. Okay, so so the house that rules it is the 7th house. Because so yeah, that's all the same. Okay, so.
You know why it's confusing? Because, when we look at these charts, the ascendant represents the victim and the descendant represents the perpetrator.
In an event chart, it does, but
this is
sometimes you have to, yeah.
Right.
Well, this is a 911 call. This is not actually an event call. I mean, it is. It's in the event of a phone call, but a phone call is also often called the outcry.
Okay.
So it's literally the first time when the parents say, "Where is my kid?"
Right. And we are talking about 2 females who are dead, which is Venus in right.
In Gemini.
In Gemini.
Right. So then you're going to say she's at north. Venus is at north. And she's in its succeedant. So if they're north latitude and the planet is in its succeedant house, then you're going to multiply by 2. Okay, so what are you going to multiply? You're going to multiply the distance between the degree of Venus, which is 11, and the degree of the moon, which is
21.
21. So 21 minus 9 is 10. And 10 times 2 is 20. And the girls were found 20 miles away.
That's pretty good. All right. I think what we need to do is we got to have just a mapping. Let's look and just test this. I'll come up, you tell me which charts you want me to pull. I'll pull a few.
Well, also there's the whole like finding the direction by house and sign. So
right, which doesn't always work. Now I also the way I do it is I look at no houses and I look where the moon is, and I would say 80% of the time it works. You look at the moon and you see where it falls. It worked with Jalissa. You can do that. Look at Jalissa's I can't remember her last name, but the one that was just found. She was moon in Sagittarius. She was found by a bridge. It was amazing, and I'll demonstrate that in the next one. But but yeah, so I like the simple techniques, but sometimes simple doesn't always work. So and
it depends on the chart that you're looking at, because if you don't have the right chart, I don't think it's going to tell you this method. I don't mean that you can't figure it out. I'm just saying this method is for horary. So if it's not a 911 call, I'm not sure it would work. For instance, I was working on the Hey Min Lee, Hayes charts, and the 2 that I have are the chart when she was seen in the library, and then the time that Adnan was supposed to have been showing somebody the body. I had a timestamp for that one from the trial. And neither one of those worked out. So,
Yeah.
and I didn't have the 911 call. Maybe you do, but so it didn't work out. So I think it does kind of depend on what chart you're looking at. But I saw this work several times in the past. I saw it work for Kaylee Anthony. They 1.2 miles, they said, and by gosh, she was 1.2 miles away.
And you use this technique. You use
I
the
didn't. I
didn't.
didn't,
Okay.
but they
Okay.
did. They said, according to Ivy, and they didn't explain it. They just said, according to Ivy, she's this. And then a couple months later, when she was found, she was. So,
in the Evansdale murders, say you were to look at this chart and you wanted to find out where they were, I would say the best way to do it that I know is to look at the description of the place where they are. So if you were to, in this case, Venus is the girls because it's at 1211 and it's in, I'm sorry, because it's in Libra, it's in the 9th house of bridges. You can't get 7 bridges here, I don't think, but you can get a group of bridges because Mercury is a group. And so, that might lead you to 7 bridges. I think it's also interesting too that it's on the northeast axis there. So that, I think it also shows that they're up in the northeast area, which is where they were. I don't know. But you would also want 9th house is in the open too.
Outdoors, outside.
Yeah. And hidden in a park would be Neptune.
The 5th house, Neptune. Yep.
So, okay.
So, yeah.
All right. So tomorrow, do you want to do this tomorrow? We're going to look at the serial killer.
No, I wanted to do that Sunday night.
Okay.
Yeah. Can we do that Sunday night?
Which Sunday? Next Sunday?
No, day after tomorrow.
You mean tomorrow?
Oh, Monday night. I'm sorry. Monday night. Monday or Tuesday.
Yeah.
Whatever works better for you. But yeah, I mean, I'll be there all week. So it's Monday through Friday.
We'll check void course moon. And then and then we'll let you guys know. But I don't know. This was really interesting with the asteroids. I feel like after this, I feel like we might have nailed down that there were witnesses that actually knew about this, and that we might have a description. But I don't know. I guess we're going to find out. What I'd also like to do, and another possible short course, or maybe not a course but a show, is what when are they going to get the answer? When will there be an arrest? And we could pull de-arrest, I guess, for that. So
well, for those kind of things, especially on these older cases, I like to actually do a horary chart.
Yes,
because then we can do the timing by the moon and where there's no guesswork.
Okay, exactly.
What do you think?
Oh, poor Robin. She said her phone was buffering. Did she miss much? We were just,
yeah, we just solved the case. Robin, where have you been?
And let's see. Lana says it won't last long before it's full house. I am grateful for the right timing on my part at once. Oh, I don't know. I guess that means she's leaving. And let's see you next time. I feel like the ladies are giving us a private sitting. Yes.
All for you, girls. It's all for you.
All right. Well, thank you, Grace. And we will see you the next time. And I think we're going to be talking about serial killers and a whole bunch of other things. And we're going to nail down the mapping. So have a good Saturday night, guys.
You're so ambitious. Bye.
Bye.